Hello and welcome to Wyrd Wessex. My name is Craig.
And my name is Andy.
What are we talking about today, Andy?
Well, as there is a glorious, at the time of recording, full moon out tonight, I thought we could.
I'll put it away.
Uh, yeah, that's for Patreon bonus. That's for Patreon members only. There is a glorious full moon in the sky, so I thought we'd talk about a beast that stalks beneath the full moon, a beast ridden with bloodlust so terrible it's terrorized an entire nation for quite a while, a few centuries ago.
All right. Well, before we do that, I just want to quickly plug our social media. So make sure you follow us. We are at Wyrd WYRD Wessex on social media. We also have a new t-shirt design. If you haven't seen it yet, it's the classic Sir Abbas giant design, but with a pumpkin head, especially for Halloween. Um, we're probably going to take it down after Halloween. So limited edition shirt. And we've got Patreon. If you like what we're doing and you want us to carry on, we are working really hard on this content lately. So, yeah, join our Patreon and help to fund this venture.
But for now, back to the story. So, in the middle of the 1700s, a terror gripped southern France. The kingdom was still reeling from the ravages of the Seven Years' War and the Austrian War of Succession before that. The dead numbered in their thousands and famine stalked the land. But this terror was of a different breed to war or hunger. For a beast was on the hunt, a creature so wretched and monstrous that the folk of the region began to fear that such atrocities could only be the divine punishment of God Almighty for their constant warring and sin. The year was 1764, and the place was Gévaudan. As one great chronicler wrote, Beast of Gévaudan feared no sword and feared no gun, sent from heaven the seventh of creatures. Beast of Gévaudan, for the wrath of God to come to sanction the mass and the preachers.
Wait, isn't that German metal band? Powerwolf.
No, well, yeah, but yeah, they're kind of great chroniclers.
The Beast of Gévaudan was a creature most often thought to be a great wolf or wolves that stalked the land surrounding the region of Gévaudan over the course of 4 years. The dead supposedly numbered over 100, and thousands were involved in hunts for the beast or beasts. To add some context, the fear of wolves in this area of Europe was not a new one. Witchcraft in the 15th to 17th centuries was often linked to a mastery over beasts or even the ability to shapeshift into them. The most common of these creatures were wolves, leading to many people being hanged or burned, and a few unfortunate wolves as well, thought to be witches stuck in the bestial forms.
I mean, that sounds like another episode in itself we should probably cover at some point because the werewolf trials of that time are fascinating. But we've feared creatures of the night for as long as we've been around. Nothing evokes fear quite like the howling of a wolf at night as you draw closer to a dying fire. And France had its fair share of witchcraft-free troubles with wolves as well. Aside many cases of man-eating wolves in the 16th and 1700s, there was an instance in the 1400s where, over a 2 year period of unusual coldness, a massive pack of wolves near enough besieged Paris. It surrounded it, and it would attack groups of travelers as they tried to leave or enter the city. Supposedly, it was led by a massive wolf that was known as Cotard, who was said to be of a reddish hue through either blood on its fur or more than likely suggesting it was a crossbreed with something. The whole thing culminated in a pitched battle between the townsfolk and the wolves on the steps of Notre Dame Cathedral itself in the square just outside. The desperate Parisians had drawn them in, barricaded them in the square, and went after them with crossbows and pitchforks. In the end, every wolf was killed, although a few of the Parisians lost their lives in that fight as well. So, throughout their history, the French have had a long and tumultuous relationship with wolves. But the beast would prove to be a different league entirely.
So it was a warm spring morning of April 1764 when a young woman was tending the cows. She was apparently attacked by a creature described like a wolf, yet not a wolf. Although badly bitten, she was saved by the herd she was there to protect. Given the time of year, they would have been in calf or recently given birth and thus extra protective, and they drove the beast off. However, 2 months later, in the last days of June, the creature would strike again. A 14-year-old shepherdess, Jean Boulet, was watching over her sheep in the hills east of Gévaudan for her family. Not much is recorded other than she was mauled and killed by a great wolf. There were no accounts. The life of peasants didn't mean much back then. We only have the burial record of the parish priest, which describes her means of death by la bête féroce, or a ferocious beast. This may have been due to the beast having made a name for itself already, but the fact that it wasn't remarked upon elsewhere indicated that in the region at the time, the loss of a child to a wild animal attack was a tragic circumstance of life.
The beast would strike again, just over a month later in August, first killing a 15-year-old on the outskirts of a small village in Gévaudan region itself. Then several weeks later, a field worker of 16 was savaged close to Mercure Forest, dying of his wounds later on. These attacks would get deadlier still. Over September, 4 more killings are recorded, including a child as young as 12, as well as its first adult victim, a 36-year-old woman just yards from the front door of her house. It was around this time that the people of Gévaudan began to realise that this was not isolated attacks just happening in the region, but connected to one terrible creature. Militias were formed and search parties began to comb the area, possibly commanded by Jean-Baptiste Dumal, who was a dragoon captain stationed locally. While they shot a few wolves, the beast still eluded them. It seemed perhaps the increased activity had scared it off for a little bit, though.
However, the beast's hunger was not yet satisfied, so the northwest of the region, more disappearances would follow through into October with victims, the majority being women and children being found mutilated with limbs and organs missing. There were survivors too, one being described as having his scalp bitten off. Those who survived also seem to have been targeted around the head and neck regions, indicating whatever was hunting them knew just how to kill humans. More people described being followed by the beast only to escape. Legends started piling on top of fact now, with the creature said to be of vast size, some saying as big as a cow. Others described it walking on its hind legs and being able to bound along as if it were flying. It was described by some as being striped, others as a russet colour and dappled. These accounts were not only far-fetched, but did not always add up due to the timings of their reports. People miles away were reported being target at similar times to one another, leading some people to suspect that there were more than one beast, perhaps a pack of them. This was further backed up by some reports claiming that they had seen young with the creature as it stalked the fields.
Things had gotten so bad that on New Year's Eve of 1764, the Bishop of Mende, who happened to also be the Count of Gévaudan, said special prayers at a mass and sent out a proclamation to all the different parishes to be read, saying that the beast was the scourge of God, visited upon them, the people of the region, that is, for their many sins, quoting Deuteronomy at them.
They will be wasted from hunger and ravaged by pestilence and bitter plague. I will send the fangs of wild beasts against them, with the venom of vipers that slither in the dust.
It's a bit harsh.
Yeah, I suppose it is. At least they didn't have to deal with the plague of snakes as well, I guess.
Massed prayers were said all across the diocese, but to no avail. The beast continued its murderous spree. There are so many deaths that we cannot list them all. Also, a lot of the chronicles do not carry names, only dates, as record keeping wasn't at its strongest in the 18th century in France. On January 12th, 1765, Jacques Portefeuille, aged somewhere between 10 and 12, and several of his friends were wandering near their home in the village of Villeray when the beast began stalking them. They knew of the beast and had been daring one another to wander the lanes and fields when such a monster was afoot. And wander they did, and soon enough they noticed the large animal getting closer and closer. They were not completely defenseless, however, taking with them upon Jacques' urging makeshift spears with their small knives tied to long sticks. It's the beast, cried Jacques as he began ordering the defense. The children formed a circle, spears out, as the beast ran at them, but flew away in the face of their shouts, jabs, and thrown rocks. For nearly an hour, it kept coming back at them, retreating but never too far so they could escape. According to an account written later by Jacques himself, the beast grabbed one of the younger members of the group and tried to drag him off. The brave youngster ran after it, engaging it in single combat, taking minor wounds but plunging his spear into the creature several times. Not to let something as little as being stabbed keep him down, the beast rose and fled, allowing the children to run home and tell the villagers of their ordeal.
Word soon spread and came to the attention of the King of France, Louis XV. He gave the group 350 livres between them as a thanks, and a further 300 to Jacques, along with an offer of a private education. Jacques changed his name to be better fitting into elevated society, and went to school and grew up to be an artillery officer, gentleman, and presumably Chuck Norris. As we got a copy of one of his school books in a French museum alongside other references to Jacques and his deeds, this is one of the easiest stories to firmly attribute to the tale of the beast. Due to this, the king himself had begun to take notice of the goings-on in Gévaudan, and he mobilized efforts to hunt down the monster plaguing his kingdom. While he did this, however, the beast recovered from its wounds and began to hunt once more, claiming several victims in the region, including a girl of around 12 who was apparently found partially devoured near her home in Lozère. The record of her burial gives the cause of a man-eating beast that has ravaged the country for 3 months or more.
The story began to attract international attention too. The press in England and Prussia, ever ready to dig at their long-time enemies, mocked the French court for not being able to control the beasts of their land, which was easy enough for England to say, as we'd managed to wipe out most of our own predators centuries before. Papers in France were also making the story known until all of France had heard of the creature terrorizing the south of the country. Publications went out not just in Gévaudan and the surrounds, but all across France on the beast, ranging from advice on telling it apart from a regular wolf to how to train dogs to kill it using an effigy made from an early form of cardboard. With the country gripped in panic, Louis had to act fast, and so his chief hunters and a large sum of money were put to the task. For the first half of 1765, huge hunts were taking place all across the region, with thousands of men searching for the demon canine. Hundreds of wolves were killed, some extremely large, but the beast was not among them. As time went on, indeed, the frequency of the attacks only grew. More adults were being killed now, but the primary target of the beast was still children. It was a time when schooling was only for the rich and wealthy, and families, even if a beast was on the prowl, could not afford to let their children skip their chores and keep them inside.
The first two men set to leading the royal hunt, Jean-Charles Marc-Antoine Vamusel de Enval, and his son, the thankfully shorter named Jean-Francois, arrived in the Gévaudan region in early 1765 to assist the local militia commanders. They had little success so far, but they blamed the incompetence of local assistants and the terrain and basically anything but having them take the blame. The two men, father and son, set about gathering accounts of the attacks, learning of several that spoke of farmers shooting the creature only to have it rise once more. Rumours were abound at that time, from werewolves and shapeshifters to trained mastiffs coating in leather armour, sent out by vengeful locals, or even noblemen wanting to terrorise their own countrymen with trained dogs. The dragoon commander, Duhamel, who I mentioned earlier, and the father and son duo argued over how to best capture or kill the beast. Even though the pair killed many wolves with their trained hounds, soon the pair would fall from favour. On the 24th of May, during the feast at Malzieu, came one of the most violent and deadly days yet. First, Marguerite Martin, who was a 20-year-old woman, was attacked on a nearby roadside. She managed to receive some help from a priest who was passing by and found her. Her wounds were so bad, she was given the last rites. She did manage to tell him the tale of the attack, that it was the beast that everyone had talked of. We don't know whether she survived her wounds or not, it's unclear. Hours later, another boy was attacked but managed to escape as locals heard his cries for help. He was badly bitten, but he survived. The creature's hunger, unabated, went on to spring on a boy and a girl who were walking through a nearby copse, a small wooded area. The girl's name was Marie Velay, and she was the target of the beast's fangs. The boy tried to help, he couldn't, so he ran off for help, but when help came, all they found of the poor girl was her body, which was missing its head and much of its flesh. The nearby villagers set one of their huntsmen out to look for the creature, but it was long gone. In some versions of this story, the huntsman never returned either. Marguerite Bonnet was close to her home village when she was attacked by the creature. Her clothes were torn from her body as she was badly mauled, but to her aid came a 16-year-old boy, Pierre Tannevel. Now Pierre, after the fashion of Jacques months earlier, carried an improvised spear with him and wounded the creature, sending it scurrying away. Now, Pierre wasn't just carrying the spear because he'd heard it had worked for Jacques. He wasn't just carrying it because he was simply worried and had heard about the beast. Only 3 months before, his aunt had been killed by the monster. When all of these attacks, the news of it reached the market goers at Malzou's fair, those trading there went in full panic, packing up their goods and fleeing, taking with them all money and wares, everything they've been trading, ending the market days before it should have done.
When he heard about these events, the king was furious. He decreed that the hunt of Jean Charles and his son was a failure. They were replaced by the king's own gun bearer and knight equerry, a man by the name of Francois Antoine. He began the hunt anew in earnest. Villagers and locals were organized into beating parties, and he approached it with a military mindset. He was an accomplished hunter, but said this was the hardest terrain he had hunted upon, with the hardest quarry to track. The net was apparently closing, but the beast was not done. Upon his arrival in the region, he learned of a cowherd being slain upon his own farm only 2 days before. He too began to suspect that the beast may be part of a pack, or at least a small family group, and that if such a monster had borne pups, they must all be destroyed.
The story then came to lift the spirits, though. Marie-Jeanne Vallée was walking with her sister when they too were attacked by the beast.
Wait, wasn't she already killed by the beast?
Different Marie Vallée, I guess. An epic fight ensued, and after a battle which some accounts say lasted hours, although doubtful, she plunged her spear, an old military bayonet tied to a stick, into the beast as it leapt at her. It cried out, whimpering as blood poured forth from its wound. However, in true villainous style, it would roll into the river next to the path that the girls were walking on and flow downstream. And if we know anything from horror films, if you don't see a villain die, they're probably not dead. Antoine made his way to the village, declaring a hero and comparing her to Joan of Arc. He also requested that she was awarded money as Jacques had been. However, Marie was not given any money, education, or fame for her battle. She did, however, end up with a statue commemorating her fight in the village of Auvers, where she was from and close to where the fight happened, immortalizing the battle between the brave woman who Antoine had dubbed the Maid of Gévaudan.
Didn't she end up as a character in Teen Wolf too?
Oh, well, that's even better than the statue, I guess.
Any joy at the idea the Maid of Gévaudan had slain the beast was short-lived. The attacks increased throughout the autumn months to several a week. It got to the point where Antoine was close to surrender. The legend goes he was penning his resignation as there was a knock at his door. Expecting a tale of another killing, he was instead greeted by reinforcements in the form of a pack of fine hunting hounds, along with huntsmen, trackers, and dog handlers, sent to aid the man from various nobles wanting to help. Spirits lifted, the hunt was back on, and soon they would find the lead they needed to take them straight to the beast.
On September the 21st, dozens of sharpshooters surrounded Pommier Woods, where a wolf pack had been tracked to, led by an animal of unusually large size. Antoine himself and his closest companions set themselves up at the mouth of a ravine that they deemed to be the most likely route of escape. There they saw their quarry, a massive wolf lope towards them. Antoine took aim. He had taken lessons from the accounts of the beast surviving blade and shot, and overcharged his musket to the point where he risked exploding it on him. I'm going to do that bit again, exploding it. Antoine took aim. He had taken lessons from the accounts of the beast surviving blade and shot, and overcharged his musket to the point where he risked it exploding on him. As it charged, he waited and waited until the last possible moment before squeezing the trigger. A great boom echoed across the ravine as the hunter was nearly thrown back by the force of the blast. He struck true, though, the shot piercing the creature's eye and exiting behind its shoulder, sending it tumbling to the ground. The cries of congratulations and elation died, however, as to the astonishment of all present, the creature struggled to its feet, once more making straight for Antoine. Before it could reach the astounded man, a second shot rang out, this time from his cousin, a man by the name of Richard, who had joined the hunt recently. This shot sent the thing running once more, but after 20-something paces, it fell dead.
I'd have probably chopped his head off, just to be sure.
Fair. There can be only one.
Different story. Le Loup de Chazes, named after the monastery close by, was 6 feet long, over 3 feet tall at the shoulder, and close to 140 pounds in weight. Antoine was keen to be assured that this wolf was the beast itself and sent for several surviving victims. Many, upon seeing the beast, confirmed this, including the Maid of Gévaudan herself, Mary Jean Vallée, who pointed out that the wound in its flank she'd dealt herself. He had it embalmed, and he sent it to the king.
However, it wasn't over yet. There was a wolf pack to deal with. It seemed in the commotion where the beast was slain, the rest of the pack had escaped, and so over the course of the following month, Antoine and his hunters tracked a she-wolf and 2 adolescent pups. It was a frustrating and lengthy affair, with one of the younger wolves being shot in the days after the hunt in the woods. While its body wasn't found, it looked to be a mortal wound. 1 down, 2 to go. While they were being hunted, the wolves apparently avoided their old habits or that of their former leader, but were responsible for many cattle deaths. The next day, the pair were encountered and shot at again, and while the she-wolf was wounded, both escaped. It would once more be at Pommier Woods, 2 weeks later, that the she-wolf met its end to the bullets of Antoine's marksman, just yards from the site of its mate's demise. Finally, after 4 days, the final wolf was shot and killed by Antoine himself. The carcasses of the pair were embalmed, albeit badly, and sent to Paris to join the beast. As the beast's reign endured, the price above his head had gone up and up. Antoine was awarded 10,000 livres. He kept only a small portion for himself, however, distributing the rest amongst the men he had hunted with and fought alongside for months. Upon his return to Paris, he was hailed as a hero, receiving generous state pensions, a cross of the Order of St. Louis, and a higher place in the court of the king. He was also allowed the honour to add the image of the beast to his own personal coat of arms. October passed without incident. Then November. It seemed the beast had been put to rest. It was over.
It isn't over. It will never be over.
All right, Sawney Bean.
In early December of 1765, 2 boys were attacked by a large wolf. It tried to snatch the younger, but the eldest of the pair managed to fight it off with a stick. Some whispered that the beast had returned, but as we said, wolf attacks weren't uncommon, and people just put it down to a regular, non-monstrous wolf, as if being attacked by a regular one was fine.
Well, they survived, didn't they? Job's a good one. They were all right.
Indeed. But the creature was sighted more and more as time went on, showing no fear around groups of cattle or humans for the most part. And the killings began once more, all centered close to the original haunt of the beast. Had it come back from the dead? Was it a copy dog killer? As the attacks increased, the locals began to become convinced it was the beast returned. Either Antoine had shot the wrong creature, or it had risen from the grave. A monster not of this world, not yet done with punishing the citizens of Gévaudan for their sins. Urgent word was sent to the king, begging for help, for him to send Antoine back to finish the job, but he had other cares. He didn't want to know. The story in his mind was wrapped up neatly a year before, and most likely thought it was a folk trying to earn another prize from him. Even the press of the time weren't really printing about it anymore. Either it had gone out of fashion, or more likely, Louis had told them to keep the matter quiet.
As the year wore on, the number of attacks grew to extraordinary levels. March alone saw 18 attacks, 10 of them dying, the youngest being a girl of just 5 years old. That works out to 1 death every 3 days. In fact, 1766 would prove the deadliest year yet, with over 100 attacks and over 50 of those victims losing their lives. The villagers of Gévaudan countryside knew that royal help was not going to be coming anytime soon, and they would have to deal with matters themselves this time. Many options were explored, from traditional hunts and shooting parties to prayers and leaving poisoned cow and pig carcasses out in areas that the beast had frequented. However, none succeeded, and the onslaught continued. it seemed that the beast was more cautious now than it had been before. While it was still sighted quite often, it knew to run from large groups of men and was cunning enough not to take food left out with the smell of humans upon it. Or perhaps it preferred the taste of long pig, fresh and warm.
As winter approached, the attacks lulled, which wasn't like the beast of old, who would hunt in any weather which had impeded the hunting parties but saw the killings continue. So it had wandered off, been summoned back to hell, gone on a Christmas vacation. The optimists wondered if it was finally over, but for the most part, Gévaudan's inhabitants held their breath and waited.
In the spring, hopes were dashed as the creature began its hunt anew. People were increasingly turning to prayer, and records show that local pilgrimages actually increased, with the brave pilgrims risking the roads to pray for their deliverance. Now, those fortunate ones found large groups to travel with, but not everyone could, and so not everyone managed to reach the abbeys and cathedrals they were making their way to, picked off on the road by the demon hound. But when you're hunting for a killer wolf, as useful as prayers are, pointy sticks and big guns also helped quite a bit, and so the hunts for the beast continued.
One such hunt, led by the Marquis d'Apcher on the slopes of a hill close to the village of Ouvre, where the Maid of Gévaudan fought off the beast 2 years before, saw events come to a head. It was the 19th of June, nearly 4 years to the day of the first recorded fatal attack by the beast. Only the day before, a 19-year-old woman, Jean Bastide, had been killed on the outskirts of a nearby village. Jean Chastel, a local farmer, was on that hunt and encountered the creature on the hillside. Legend states that combining those two monster hunting essentials of prayer and big guns, Jean sat upon the grass in wait, reading his Bible and reciting passages, gun across his lap. Soon the beast approached, and slowly, rising to his feet, the man took aim. His shot struck true, and the creature that had terrorized the locals of Gévaudan was dead.
The second time now?
Yeah, and hopefully the last. Upon examining the beast, there was evidence that the creature had indeed suffered at least one gunshot wound before. While not as large as the animal shot by Antoine 2 years previously, it was huge nonetheless. It was indeed that with this evidence, along with its habits and territory, that the wolf was most likely the first offspring to be shot after its sire was slain. It turns out the wound wasn't so mortal after all.
To top it all off, it said that the bullet that brought down the Beast of Gévaudan, this time around anyway, was made by Jean himself, cast from silver melted down from religious icons, in particular a Virgin Mary medallion. While I absolutely love this idea, sadly it does seem to have been made up by a French writer well over a century after the event. Jean was lauded as a hero. The wolf was gutted and stuffed and sent to Paris. Jean, being a simple farmer, did not get the accolades nor the reward that Antoine received. He was awarded the sum of 70 livres. Now, that wasn't even a third of what young Jacques got, and was well short of the thousands that Antoine received. Upon its arrival in Paris, having its entrails replaced by straw, badly apparently, the creature's corpse had also lost most of its hair. The stench was supposedly so bad that the man accompanying it fell sick for about 2 weeks, having health problems for the rest of his life that he blamed on the evil stench he endured on the long road north to the city. Luckily for the king, he wasn't in Paris at the time to smell the beast, so he ordered a naturalist, Mr. Buffon, to examine it, after which he judged it to be a large wolf, nothing more. This account is disputed, however, due to where people were at the time, but what we do know is that it was buried in Paris in the grounds of a relative of the Marquis, and who had sent it north. The house was demolished in the early 1800s and built over. While we don't know the exact location, it is somewhere along the Rue de Seine. The attacks ended then, and while the odd farm worker would still fall prey to wolves, nothing indicated that the beast had lived on. But, as the old saying attributed to the region goes, don't stray too far, don't leave the light. He watched on at the edge of night.
Isn't that the doom metal band Gévaudan?
same thing, isn't it? I'm sure they won't mind me borrowing it. So yes, thus comes mostly to the end of the tale of the Beast of Gévaudan. So, what do we think it was?
Yeah.
Was it a wolf? Was it something else?
Yes.
Just yes.
It was a just yes. It was a wolf, right? I mean, just a big wolf. Yeah, and maybe a
No,
pack. And I mean, we've covered all that already. What?
we actually do have some information on the second beast that was shot. Before it was sent to Paris, a man by the name of Roch Etienne Marin. Um,
Easy for you to say.
far from it. Uh, he was a notary who recorded a meeting of several naturalists and biologists who wanted to have a look at the corpse and start dissecting it. And a load of people came to see it. It was just sort of a bit of a spectacle, and they want people to witness it, so they paraded people through. And there are a few differences that they describe. Um, one of which being uh, a unusually short rib cage, but also barrel chested, but like really short, shorter than a normal wolf's. And I
What's
don't
his name? Marilyn Manson.
know, or David Bowie. I can't remember. It's been a few people that one, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, couldn't resist.
it wasn't mentioned that the wolf had removed it itself for reasons. Um, well, to assist in that, actually, one of the accounts, which is a bit more far-fetched, was that apparently it had an extraordinary long tongue, like about 3 or 4 times the length of a tongue of a normal wolf.
What's his name? Gene Simmons.
You're getting them all in today. So there's Gene Simmons, Marilyn Manson wolf, which would be a pretty freaky wolf. I'm imagining the kiss paint and everything on the face now. So yeah, the teeth were of a different structure. Some that should have been bigger were smaller, and vice versa. Just waiting for a rock star that might have had that. Can't think of any.
No, no. Come back to me in a minute. I'll see if I can think of one.
Fantastic. Um, so yeah, by all accounts, that kind of size of a wolf was big. Now, its sire, or apparent sire, the original Beast of Gévaudan, it also had an anomaly where it had extra dew claws on its legs. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, dew claws are the sort of residual sort of claws that have sort of worked their way up onto a dog's leg, and sort of they've got sort of halfway up, you've got this little claw from where the paw is, sort of at the back of their legs. Now, certain breeds of dog have extra ones, but not wolves. The dog that has been put forward is the Bousseron, which is a French, I'm probably butchered that one as well, a French breed of dog used to guard cattle. Now, it could have been a crossbreed, maybe, that the father or mother of the original beast was one of those that had mated with a wolf. Personally, I think that it might have been a crossbreed. Now, there are some theories put forward. Some people were suggesting it was a lion. Other people were
I think they would have
genuinely,
known if it was a lion.
they've got teeth and claws and they're scary and they eat people. What more do you want? Same thing, isn't it? Um,
They're pretty different.
yeah, probably. I've never seen a dog and a lion in the same room. Um, but yeah, you've got some people suggest it was a hyena. Both of those would have been in menageries, sort
Yeah.
of rich people. I mean, hyenas are pretty beefy, and you wouldn't want to mess with one. But I can't see it being a hyena. Um,
I don't
another,
think they're that big, are they?
they're not huge. They're not that long, but they are like quite stocky. They're very powerful
Yeah.
creatures. A lot of that was, I think, the references to being striped and dappled and sort of russet coloured. Um, so yeah, there are wolves that have that.
Mm.
There's an Italian variant of the Eurasian wolf that does get bigger and gets a reddish hue to its fur, so could have been one of those. I mean,
They're
so
not just a direwolf.
could be a direwolf, maybe a throwback to the direwolves. I mean, if you look at talking about crossbreeds, sort of crossbreeding animals, going back to lions, for example, when you get, you know what a liger looks like.
Yeah.
Like they're huge. So like you do get that, like weirdly bigger than tigers or lions. Now, I used to work with a lady that mushed huskies. One of her dogs, it couldn't, just because of how it was built, it couldn't pull a sled, but it was a cross between a Malamute and an Alsatian, and it was way bigger than either of those dogs. It was massive. So sometimes when you do
Mm.
crossbreed animals, they get freakishly big for some reason. So maybe that was the case there. One of the other theories, obviously still out of the supernatural realm here, was that that the beast or the beasts were actually trained hunting dogs, trained war dogs, essentially, that were covered in pig hide and bits of armor that were actually set out to kill people, like, sort of, which is, again, good plot. Don't think that was the case.
Mm.
I'm of a mind that it probably was just a massive wolf. I'm more inclined actually to believe it was a crossbreed between a wolf and a big domestic dog.
You don't think it was some kind of werewolf creature?
Um, I'd like it to be, it would be a cool story. And although Teen Wolf has already done,
Halloween, man.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's, even if it's not a beast that is terrorizing a population like that for so long, and there are reports, people who are saying they've shot the thing and it's got up, and there were lots of eyewitnesses when Antoine shot it and it just got up, and that was after it literally took a bullet through the eye. Um,
Yeah.
it's pretty, and I mean, it's always been a bit of a bugbear of mine where in westerns you see people like having a, sort of having a showdown at sort of at noon, and they both like whip out their pistols and then both shoot at the same time and one of them drops. That didn't happen. People would literally blow each other to bits before they fell over, that adrenaline going. And it's kind of the same with the
Mm.
wolf, I guess. The wolf that they found, the second one that was killed, they actually did find bits of shrapnel from bullets in there where it had been shot before, so they were fairly confident that that was the one that had been winged. But yeah, guns weren't brilliant then. They were very ineffective at longer ranges. The bullets lost power very quickly. So yeah, I could see a big animal that's apparently getting fed very well on people, lasting even with a few bullets in it. So yeah, you more
Mm.
inclined towards a werewolf then? Are you thinking it is the
Nah, it's just a wolf, innit? It's just a wolf. Just got a taste for long pig, that's it.
all right, Mr. Buffon? Um, it is. So you think it wasn't a crossbreed, just a big wolf?
Yeah, as I say, I wonder if maybe some kind of dire wolf or something.
I mean, direwolves, wrong
But
region
don't
and
know.
wrong millennia. I suppose you could get
Yeah, but
throwbacks.
sometimes these creatures exist, right? We have like things that are found that are thought to be extinct, and then it turns out that they're still alive and thrive in places. So maybe there was a small population.
Potentially, potentially. Okay, well, yeah, I'm still inclined.
Wow, you poo-pooed all over my theory.
No, no, I said maybe, maybe. I mean, or you do get genetic throwbacks to things, don't you, sometimes? But yeah, it could be. I still think personally that it was a crossbreed between a wolf and another big dog, which would kind of explain
I
its
wonder.
lack of fear, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it had a taste for human flesh, so could it have been? And just hear me out on this one before you make any aspersions to what I'm about to say, right?
I'm looking forward
We're
to it.
talking werewolves. We're talking werewolves, right? So we're thinking Shawnee Bean, right? Our pal.
It's got elements of Shawnee Bean. It's
Yeah.
got elements of Shawnee Bean.
He's he's it's basically Shawnee Bean, but in wolf form, right? So I reckon that he'd like when he died, his spirit left his body and entered a wolf, and
Ah.
then the wolf went on the same killing rampage.
I think we need to make a. I think we need to make a story out of that. I
I
think we.
think my timings are off because I think Shawnee Bean existed after the wolf, right?
So maybe the wolf became Shawnee
What
Bean.
you? Oh. That's like, nah, it's not as fun though, is it? You want to think like,
Nah, you could have someone like eat the wolf meat, eat the cursed wolf meat, and become Shawnee Bean.
what year was Shawnee Bean again?
Right, it was in the reign of King James, wasn't it? Which makes it the 1500s. So
I
Shawnee
got
Bean
the
was
script here.
before. Shawnee Bean was before the war, the Beast of
On a
Gévaudan.
desolate stretch of the Scottish coast in the 16th century is how our script starts.
So yeah, the 1500s.
So it does work.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing for the 200 years in between, but you know.
Well, hanging out in heaven, waiting.
I'm sure that's exactly where Shawnee Bean went to.
God forgives everyone, even you, Andy.
Even me, really? Oh, really? But yeah, I mean the only, I mean it's first of all I don't read French, as you can probably tell by some of my pronunciations of the names and titles.
No.
I know, right? But there is the Marion Report is actually in a museum in France. It was lost but then rediscovered in the 50s. Now, there is a quote in there that says, "This animal, which seems to us to be a wolf, but extraordinary and very different by its figure and its proportions from the wolves that one sees in this country. This is what we have certified by more than 300 people from all around who came to see it." I don't imagine they're all biologists by any means, as I said, but that kind of lends credence to both our ideas, really. So I don't think the first-hand report there really sort of favours one of ours over the other, because that could be said of a dire wolf or of a wolf-dog hybrid.
Oh, I thought you meant my Shawnee Bean theory.
I probably was, yeah. There were probably, yeah. Yeah. It seems, yeah. It was extraordinary and very different by its figure and its proportions from the wolves that we see in this country. It was almost like it was a Scottish cannibal and a wolf. I think that was the actual. I mistranslated. I'm sorry.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. See, you don't speak the language.
If anyone has any ideas towards it in the comments, if you watch it on YouTube, or you can follow us on social media, let us know what you think as well, because we're stumped apparently.
Cut of the weird. Join the conversation. There isn't a conversation. There is a cut of the weird. There's never a conversation. I've tried.
Too weird. I will try. Everyone likes speaking to me. Shall we get on with some weird news?
We should, but I reckon people don't listen to the end. So before you go, people, just remember to check out at Wyrd Wessex on social media, WYRD. As you just mentioned, the Cut of the Weird Facebook group. And we've got our Patreon. So, have you got any weird news?
I do actually. I do. Let me pull it up. So, along the lines of beasts, Russian spy whale was shot, animal groups say. There's not a phrase you hear all the time, but it was on BBC News from the beginning of the month. A beluga whale suspected of being a Russian spy was found dead off the Norwegian coast, was shot, animal rights activists have claimed. The body of the otherwise healthy and relatively young animal, nicknamed Valdemir, was found floating in a bay off the country's southwestern coast. Animal rights groups said the whale was found with bullet wounds and it had been shot in a heinous crime. "We will pursue justice for Valdemir," one whale founder, Regina Haugs, vowed in a statement on social media. One whale said about it. For a moment, I thought it was one whale saying about another whale. No, it's the name of the charity. One whale was, oh, there you go. One whale was founded to track the beluga, which rose to fame after being spotted in Norwegian waters 5 years ago. The pale whale was seen with a GoPro camera attached to a harness that read "Equipment of St. Petersburg." That's pretty shoddy spy work there, sparking speculation that the curious mammal could be engaged in espionage. It became locally known as Valdemir, a pun on the Norwegian word for whale, Val, and Russian President Vladimir Putin's first name. The body was found floating off the western town of there's more words I can't pronounce. Risavika on the 1st of September and taken to the nearest port for examination. Noah and One Whale said they filed a complaint with Norwegian police, asking them to open a criminal investigation. He had multiple bullet wounds around his body. Now, photographs published by One Whale on social media appeal to show that there were bullet wounds enveloped in his bloodied body. The injuries on the whale are alarming and of a nature that cannot rule out a criminal act. It is shocking. But yeah,
This is not that weird. This is just nasty and bleak and about the death of a whale, and I'm not into it.
I mean, it's a spy whale. All right, I'm going to read a little bit more about the spying. It's just telling me about the dead whale. This is pretty bleak.
Yeah,
So,
it's a
from-
bleak story, man. You're gonna get us cancelled.
I mean, we're just telling the truth. That's what we always do. So, yeah, apparently this whale, I was reading an earlier article back when the whale was alive. Apparently it was
Oh, rub it
flying
in.
close. What was that?
It said rub it in.
Rub it
Oh,
in.
back when the whale was alive.
So yeah, it was an unusual place that far south. They're usually in like the sort of high Arctic region. He's had this harness around him with this GoPro on him, and he would go really close to boats, bigger boats especially, and sort of turn almost so the camera would see it. Which it's pretty weird. I'd say it's pretty weird using a beluga whale as a spy. But and the mystery deepens that it was apparently shot. Was it government forces? Was it another spy whale?
Right. So did they retrieve the camera? Because
No,
otherwise, it sounds like they were just being paranoid.
the camera was gone at that point, I believe.
So they were just being paranoid. There
Oh,
was
so no,
camera.
some fishermen a little while ago. This was back in this an evolving story. Well, not evolving, because this happened before. Yeah, a couple of years ago, some fishermen apparently put on some Arctic survival suits and jumped in to fetch the camera. It wasn't transmitting to anywhere, which led them to believe that it was actually supposed to go and meet whatever trainer it had to grab the camera off of it, and they'd just replace it. So it sounds like they were sending this whale into like harbors and things like that to check out boats. I know they've trained dolphins to like put mines on ships before.
Is this like the plot line to Free Willy 5 or 6 or something?
It's a cross between Free Willy and Rocky 5, I reckon, and Rambo 2. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird. I'm sorry it's broken your heart.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up loving Free Willy and whales and orcas and
But yeah, no, I love Wales. I love Wales, but I also love a good bit of spy mystery, you know, bit of espionage.
sorry, whales.
Yeah, just for that, I'm gonna get a mystery set in Wales and write the script and give you all the really, really Welsh names to pronounce.
Don't we get Jimmy back?
Yeah, just get him to do it. Our Welsh correspondent. All right, have you got anything lighter for us then? Anything that's not as childhood crushing?
Well, let's go for the headline on this story, which comes from the Express, is "Man horrified after finding hidden tombstone in garden with an eerie detail." A man has been watching his back ever since he discovered a tombstone in his garden with his birthday etched into it.
Wow, that's
Explained how he was digging up the garden to put in a pond when he made the creepy discovery, making him question his house's history. Sharing the discovery on Reddit, he said, "I found a tombstone while digging out a pond in my backyard. I should also add that he died on my birthday." The gravestone belonged to John Cunningham, who was born January 26th, 1800 in Maryland and died June 29th, 1866 in Spiggotsbury. In response to his post, one user set about tracking down John and came to learn he was buried in Mount Zion Cemetery on June the 30th, 1866. After searching through the records, the user said he has quite a few living relatives today who I'm sure would be very interested in this relic. Commenting on his find, another user added, "What a fascinating discovery. Do inform your local historical society. They will probably be very interested." There's lots of people's quotes from Reddit. Basically, what they've done is they've made a story out of a Reddit post. And now I'm making a podcast from it.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that is pretty. Was it the same birth? Did the guy share his birthday, or was the death day his birthday?
Says birthday, didn't it? So, yeah.
In which case,
That's what it says.
deputies search for burglar who broke into Brandon home to suck victims' toes.
Have you just done a
I've done a
Florida man?
Investigators in Manatee County are searching for a burglar who sucked on a man's toes after breaking into his Brandon home. The sheriff's office said
Oh, I know this story. This went on for quite a while.
Yeah, was sleeping in his bedroom on Christmas Eve, but the report came on the 6th, only to be awakened by a man sucking on his toes. The victim asked the burglar what he wanted, telling him he didn't have any money. The man replied he was there to suck toes. Wow.
I'm pretty sure this went on for a really long period of time where he just broke into houses and that people would wake up with this man sucking on their toes.
Damn. I mean, that's like
if it's a different case, if it's a different case, then this happened with another person as well. But yeah.
Oh no, I don't know. By the looks of it, they didn't catch him this one. They took swabs of saliva from toes, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty. Wow. Just waking up and like there's someone sucking your toes. Like, what do you want? I haven't got any money. I'm here to suck toes. It's
yeah. I mean, we were looking for creepy Halloween content, so
I mean that is creepier than anything I've said today. Yeah.
Yep.
On that note,
you win the episode. Yeah. So
I was going to say, if I win the episode, I want a nice night vision camera as my prize. Anyway, carry on.
All right. Come to the studio and get it, biatch. You got to sleep in here.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Don't forget, I saw the shadow thing in the garden I told you about on the early episode. And we got the man, the shadow with the hat. Oh, and there's the woods just up the road, which is in walking distance, which has about 4,000 bodies buried underneath the woods.
Fantastic. There's your doll.
So
there's Eliza back there.
Yes.
Give us a wave. There she goes.
She's still there.
For now. And
so there's plenty of things for Andy to come and see.
You've also got all of your little false widow friends there as well.
Oh yeah, you might get bitten.
Fantastic.
I might let you in the house. You might be able to sleep in the house, but we'll see. To follow us on social media, we are at Wyrd Wessex, WYRD. Don't forget you can buy our new merch, the Cernavis Giant with the pumpkin head, on the Redbubble store. There'll be links underneath the video and in the podcast description. What else have we got? Patreon. Join Patreon. Give us money. If everyone signs up to Patreon, Andy will come and spend a night in the studio with the haunted Eliza doll,
the shadow figure in the woods,
and all the spiders. Yeah.
I'm nodding in agreement to that. I don't know why, but yes, I will.
This is legally binding now.
That's it. Did an online pinky promise. So that is everything from us, I think. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay weird.